Welcome back to our podcast, That Went By Fast, where we are going to discuss Season 1, Episode 2 of The Vampire Diaries.
And the episode is called The Night of the Comet. It originally aired September 17th, 2009. It was written by Kevin Williamson and Julie Plec and was directed by Marco Siega. And it looks like the title was referenced by the 1984 cult film Night of the Comet. All right. So I'll start this off. This episode starts showing a tent sitting in the woods with some real mysterious fog floating around on the ground, and just it's a terrible night to be out camping, and you have these two young teenage adults, whatever you want to call them, out in this tent in the middle of nowhere, and probably the spookiest woods you could ever come across. They're out there camping by themselves, which makes no sense, but here we are. So they're doing their teenage stuff, and all of a sudden the guy needs to go get something from the car. He unzips the door, gets out to go get something from the car, and you don't hear from him again. So after a few minutes, the girl's laying there and she starts hearing something drip on top of the tent. And when she gets out to investigate, she looks up and sees his body in a tree above the tent, dripping blood down on top of the tent. Now, she begins to scream, and obviously after that, she meets her end. But I thought this was real cool because, again, seeing that this, whatever killed this person, actually took the time to hang him in a tree so the blood would drip down on the tent, shows once again these are not your Twilight vampires we're dealing with here. These guys, whoever it is doing some very brutal things to the people that they kill.
Yep, and then it pans into our cast that we love so much, and we're back to Vicki, who at the end of Season 1, or the end of Episode 1, where if you remember, she was attacked in the woods by something. And we know it's a vampire. And I think I said in the first episode that we did, I thought, well, that really makes Stefan look really fishy. But I knew that I figured out quickly when Damon showed his face that it was probably Damon. So here we are. Vicky's in the hospital after her vampire attack, which she does tell Matt at the end of Episode 1 that it was a vampire. Before the season goes off, or before the episode goes off, she tells him that it was a vampire that attacked her. So she's in the hospital, and Matt and Elena are talking later, and Elena's asking, how is Vicky doing? And he tells her, that she's doing okay. But the strangest thing happened. She said she was attacked by a vampire. So the thing about that is, though, is Vicki is on drugs. We know that. Matt knows that. And so she doesn't, he kind of doesn't give very much credit there, but he does think it's odd. And Elena kind of thinks it's odd, but they don't really give it much credit because, again, Vicki's on drugs and who knows what she's seen. So Stefan overhears that.
Yeah, while they're having that conversation is the first time we get to witness Stefan's, superhuman hearing. So Stefan hears that and thought, I guess in his mind, he thinks, oh man, I've got to do something to fix this. She's remembering what's happened. So at that point, Stefan, he slips off to the hospital to try to get in there and compel Vicki to not remember that a vampire had actually bitten her, but he's going to try to compel her to remember that it was an animal attack. And so that's what Stefan does. He slips off to the hospital and he's doing his thing.
Yeah, and then Matt catches a glimpse of him. And so Matt kind of goes to follow him out, and he's, kind of seeing Stefan's shadow and following it as it turns into, seeing him in the distance and following him as he turns into different rooms and down the hallway. And then he ends up Stefan walks into a room where they're giving blood, and he does his vampire face shifting thing where you can see the veins come out. And he's thinking, well, like you can see that it's going through his head. Well, I've got to walk through here because, he does not drink human blood, which we don't really know much of Stefan's diet at this point. But anyway, he goes on through that room and through a curtain. Well, Matt follows him through there and goes through the curtain, and there's nothing there. It's just another wall, a room. There's no other way out except for a window that's open, which leads to too far for any human to jump from. So Matt's really confused and suspicious when he sees this. So he already wanted to know, more about this strange and mysterious guy, but now he's really starting to feel some weird feelings
Yeah,
about
he's
Stefan.
starting to wonder what's going on with this guy because first off, he was at the hospital visiting Vicki, and he doesn't understand why he was there. And then he chases him through the hospital, and he was in this room where there's no way to escape except an open window. And it was very, no human could have jumped out of it and at least would have broken a leg or something like that. But Stefan's nowhere to be found, and Matt's like, "What's going on here?"
Yeah. So, and then you got Jeremy. Jeremy is obviously feeling some sort of way about Vicki. He's crushing on her. He thinks
Well,
he's in love
let me
with her.
say something about Jeremy. Now, before all this happened, Jeremy had visited Vicki in the hospital. And he's in there, checking on her and everything. And she looks at him and says, "Hey, man, nobody can know about us because, Tyler's starting to show some real interest, And if I'm Jeremy at that point, I'm going to turn right around, walk out of that hospital room, and probably never talk to her again because it's like Jeremy says, you know what, if Tyler cares so much, where's he at, But, yeah, she basically looks at him and says, "Hey, I don't want nobody to know about us because Tyler's starting to show me some affection here, So she's trying to just boot Jeremy to the side already,
And speaking of Jeremy, we know that he is on drugs too. Him and Vicki are a duo, but
I think that's what she's using Jeremy for at this point is just to get her drugs that she needs,
Yeah, and because that in the first episode too, Jeremy is in the bathroom, and that is actually when Elena and Stefan meet because Elena goes into the bathroom after him, and she's asking him if he's getting high in the bathroom. She comes out, and that's when her and Stefan meet. But anyway, talking about Jeremy, that's where in this episode you get a more of a glimpse into Aunt Jenna. And I loved Aunt Jenna's character. And spoiler alert, she's not with us very long.
She's just doing the best she can do,
Yeah,
man.
but I did love Aunt Jenna's character, and she, anyway, she's taking care of them. Because they're only what I think Jeremy's 15, Elena's 16,
She's
maybe
17, I think,
17. So Jeremy's I think 15, and anyway, Jenna's taking care. She's their guardian, and so this episode kind of dives into a little bit more of Jenna and shows that side of things. And she's got to get to a meeting with Mr. Tanner,
which is the jerk of all jerks when it comes to teachers, as I could.
Another spoiler alert. He gets his though. Because
I'm glad he does. I don't remember how he gets his, but I hope he gets it.
Oh, yeah, well, anyway, she has to meet with him over Jeremy. Jeremy's not doing too well in school, and Mr. Tanner tells her how bad of a job she's doing, that it's impossible to raise teenagers. And she says, "No, it's not impossible." And he says, "Well, if it's anything less than impossible, you're not doing it right." And it kind of leaves her speechless, and she's wondering, okay, maybe I'm not doing it right because it is a hard job. But anyway, so you kind of get to see that part of Aunt Jenna. And one of my favorite parts of the episode is when Jeremy comes in after she's had this meeting with Mr. Tanner, and he tells her how bad Jeremy's doing in school. And she says, it's not how many assignments he's missing. And she says, is it even possible to be missing that many assignments? And he says, yeah, if you're on drugs. So then it dawns on her, oh, he's on, he must be on drugs.
Yeah.
So I need to be getting a hold of this. And so anyway, he comes in later on in the episode, and he comes in, he's high, and he walks over and says something to Jenna, and she says something to him, and he walks away from her. And he's going upstairs, and she chucks an apple at his head.
Jeremy? Jeremy, where were you?
More stoner stories. Look, Jenna, I get it. You were cool once, and that's cool.
Oh, no.
Ow, why? Why did you do that?
Listen up. Quit ditching class or you're grounded. No discussion.
Parental authority, I like it. Sit tight.
And I just love that part because I'm like, yeah, I hit him with the
apple.
apple.
That's one of the things I wrote down when we was watching this episode. I actually wrote down Jenna hits Jeremy with an apple because she's telling him, she's trying to talk to him and say, hey, I used to be your age and I used to do these things too. But, as you get older, she's trying to tell him, I realize I don't need to be doing this stuff. And he just tries to slip off and not even listen to her. And as he's trying to slip off and going up the steps, she looks at him, just throws an apple at him, and just bust him upside the head with it. It was pretty funny, man. It really was.
I like that part a lot. I thought it was well deserved on Jeremy's end.
Okay, so now, at the end of the last episode, I think Elena had kind of realized that her and Stefan weren't going to work out. It was just one problem after another. But Bonnie has come to Elena and said, hey, you know what? You need to give him a chance, I think you ought to give him a chance and all this good stuff. So she's actually making her way to the Salvatore house. And when Elena gets there, she walks through the door. Here comes the crow fluttering around her. And she turns around, and there's the first time Elena meets Damon.
Right. And we also left out at the beginning of, or at the end of the episode in episode 1, after Stefan has a talk with his uncle, he pulls out a diary that has a picture of Catherine in it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the way that made me feel was a little mad, because I thought, okay, I like Stefan, and I thought that he was genuine, but he's here because of whoever this person is, we didn't know her name was Catherine yet, but whoever this woman is, it's a black and white photo, she looks just like Elena, so he's there for that reason. So I was kind of like, maybe his feelings aren't genuine at all. So anyway, then back to what you said, she meets Damon for the first time, and you said she felt like it wasn't going to work out between her and Stefan. I don't think she felt like it wasn't going to work out between her and Stefan. I think she felt like she just had too much going on, and she just wasn't in a mind space yet for it.
She just wasn't ready for no relationship. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, anyway, so she just was kind of telling Bonnie, it was just, Bonnie told her, was pushing her, you push your friend, hey, you need to give this guy a chance, and you need to step back out into the dating world. You need to move on. So she goes to the Salvatore home, takes Bonnie's advice, and she decides, I do want to step out there. I do want to meet, I like this guy. So she goes to his house, and she, you know what, though? I'm drawing a blank of how she even knew where he lived. I have to look that up because I can't remember. I think
she was there. It's a small town. Everybody knows this dude is in this big house at the corner, probably.
Yeah, so anyway, she goes there. And as you said, the crow flies in, and lo and behold, there's Damon. And she's face to face with him.
And Damon, he's starting trouble out the gate, man, because he's like, so you must be Elena. And he's like, well, I'm surprised, Damon got over, was able to get over the last one and talk to you. And she's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, you guys haven't had the old exes talk yet.
So Elena's just kind of dumbfounded standing there, and it's awkward. She's not mad. She's not jealous. She's not feeling any way. She's just like, okay, this is awkward. And there's Stefan when she turns around. And so she looks at Stefan.
And Stefan is straight up pissed already.
Yeah, he's not even looking at Elena.
He's got his eyes on Damon, and he won't take them off. You know what I'm saying?
And so it's very awkward all the way around. Elena's looking at Stefan. She's even talking to him. She says, Stefan, and he won't even look at her. He said, Elena, I'll meet you outside.
Yeah, well,
he's kind of rude to her.
Damon's like, hey, well, I'll bring out the family albums. And so, and he can show you some photos. And at that point, I think Damon says, hey, you need to leave. I think he actually asked her to leave.
Stefan
asked her to leave.
And so she's just kind of, it seemed rude. It would hurt my feelings.
Yeah, I would have thought it would have been rude.
But he is just like really focused on Damon right now, and he's just really mad. He's just like,
I think he's just wanting to get her away from Damon because he doesn't know what the freak he's going to do.
Right, and he doesn't know what Damon's going to say to her, and he doesn't want her near Damon because he's fearful of what Damon. Yeah,
Damon's a stone cold killer at this point, man.
Yeah,
he really is.
So Stefan's just kind of standing there, and Elena's, it's really awkward, and so she leaves, and Stefan doesn't say anything to her, so that leaves them in a weird place.
Yeah.
And so then the scene moves on.
Well, now, so after that scene ends, we're back at the Mystic Grill, and Vicky's out of the hospital.
Yeah.
And she goes to the restaurant and runs into Damon. Now, she had been having those dreams where even though she believed in her head she was attacked by an animal, she kept dreaming of Damon's face. So because Stefan is the one that compelled her. Because Stefan compelled her, and we don't know really how that works yet, and it's explained in this scene. Yeah. Because, she's seeing glimpses, like you said, of Damon in her nightmares, and that's because Stefan compelled her that she was attacked by an animal. So Well, now she runs into Damon, and I reckon she sees his face, spooks her. She takes off. Damon follows her out and attacks her again.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when all this is going on, Jeremy starts to wonder where she's at, and he can't find her. So he goes and gets everybody, including Stefan. They all start looking for her. Now, with Stefan's supersonic hearing, he starts hearing Damon threatening her and stuff like that. So Stefan finds them up on top of one of the buildings in the town.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so side note, in that scene, it is so cool because they're on top of when you've been to Covington. You know, I told you it's a Mystic Falls is a real place, Covington, Georgia. You can visit. So when you are there in that town, you're obviously looking for all the places where they filmed. And if you're taking a tour, they tell you. Well, it's on top of a building, and it was really filmed on top of a building.
Yeah.
And so it's one of those flat top old buildings, and you can see in the scene of it, you can see the clock tower, the infamous
clock tower.
You can see it in the background. And when I rewatched this series over and over again, and I've rewatched this episode, I love that because I know that it's really filmed on top of that rooftop, and you can just see the clock tower in the distance. So that was just a little cool thing that I like. But anyway, so Stefan meets him up on top of the rooftop, and that's where Damon is antagonizing Stefan.
He actually compels Vicki
Yeah.
into believing Stefan was the one that attacked her.
What's happening?
I don't need her to be dead, but you might. What attacked you the other night?
I don't know, an animal.
Are you sure about that? Think about it. Think really hard. What attacked you?
Vampire.
Who did this to you?
You did!
Wrong. Don't, Stefan. Don't. Stefan Salvatore did this to you.
Stefan Salvatore did this to me.
He's a vampire. A vicious, murderous monster. Please, David.
Yeah, and so she's saying that, she's saying that Stefan Salvatore attacked her because Damon drinks in this universe, in this vampire universe. When you drink human blood, and when you're the full-on vampire, then you have the full-on vampire power. So you can hear, you're faster, you can compel, you can do all the things. Well, Stefan is not drinking human blood. He's drinking animal blood. And there's reasons for that, spoiler alert, because he ends up being a ripper, which we will talk about later. But he has his reasons. He doesn't want to drink human blood. He's fine by living the way he lives.
But that also puts Stefan at
Yes.
a disadvantage because he's not as powerful as Damon is. He's not as powerful as any vampire that actually feeds off human blood. So basically, Stefan cannot override what Damon has done to her. So now she's saying, hey, you're the one that attacked me. You're the one that tried to kill me. And Damon is doing this to try to get Stefan to actually kill her so she won't go tell everybody that Stefan done it.
Mm-hmm.
And I reckon Stefan just looks at him and says, hey, I'm not going to do this. She can go tell whoever she wants to tell. I'm not going to kill her. I'm not going to be a murderer. That stuff's in my past. I'm not doing it anymore.
Right. And Damon is just bent on Stefan, being bad because he wants him to be miserable. And we learn why. I mean, later in this whole season is about the whole Catherine, and we learn all those things. But Damon wants Stefan to be miserable, and with Stefan being miserable, that's him turning and they've not seen each other in years at this point. So
I think it's been 50 years since they've seen each
yeah,
other.
so Damon's just trying to get Stefan to turn. He knows Stefan's weaknesses, and he's trying to pull on all those. But Stefan tells him, he says, I refuse. I don't care if you expose me or not. I'm not doing that. I'm not gonna compel her. I'm not gonna drink her blood. I'm not gonna attack her. Go ahead, tell everybody. Tell them I did it.
Yeah, so basically Stefan calls Damon's bluff. So Damon, he has to, that forces Stefan into compelling her again,
Damon.
or Damon to compel her again that an animal had attacked her. So I reckon after that, everything's all good. We get back to the restaurant. Vicky's in there safe and sound again.
She thinks that she just,
she
she took some more pain medicine.
Yeah.
She's good to go.
Yeah, her neck's a little sore. Some animal just jumped up and bit her right on the neck. Nothing's weird about that. But so Stefan asked Caroline and Bonnie about Elena. And Bonnie, trying to be the best friend she tries to be, writes down Elena's number to give to him. But when Bonnie gives that paper to Stefan, she gets that feeling again.
Well, she touches him.
Yeah.
Yeah, she accidentally touches him because she writes her number down. And if you remember in episode 1, it happened when she touched Elena. She felt that death. She grabbed, I think it was a beer bottle. She grabbed from
She got
Elena
a,
or something.
a bad feeling,
and
death
she,
or something.
Yeah,
like that.
she felt death. Well, she felt that again when she senses something's bad happened to him. And she even asked him, I think she asked him, what happened to you? Yeah,
and then she realizes she's being rude, and she basically says, I'm sorry, and then just leaves.
Yeah, and Caroline, and remember, a lot of people don't like Caroline at this point. She's just that little twerky blonde who just kind of seems to me like she's just clueless. But she looks at Stefan and she tells him she does that sometimes. She just weirds out.
Yeah.
And, so Stefan knows at that point something is different about Bonnie because he realized, okay, she knows or she felt something. So he just kind of looks at Caroline blankly and then his mind's wondering what's going on with Bonnie.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you remember when Stefan and Elena were together earlier at the Salvatore house, Stefan was rude to her, basically told her to leave. But we know he was really just trying to get Elena away from Damon because he's afraid of what Damon's going to do to her. So now, Stefan and Elena, they meet back up at the Salvatore house where, Stefan looks at her and says, hey, I'm sorry about how I acted earlier. And Elena looks at him, tells him how scared she is to get out in the world and all that good stuff. Well, while all this has happened, Stefan and Elena get their first kiss.
Yes, and that is the sweetest little moment. So we all wanted it to happen, and it did. So they get their first little kiss as the Comet, I think the Comet.
Yeah, there's a comet going on. The episode's called Night of the Comet, but I don't really know what the deal was.
So they have their first little kiss, and in the meantime, Damon is stalking Caroline out into the parking lot. I think she's had a few to drink.
Oh, yeah. They start to flirt it up a little bit, and then, they end up back at Caroline's place where they do a little bit more than kiss. You know what I'm saying?
Well, and the episode ends where Damon is, they're fixing to get it on, and or they are getting it on, and Damon attacks her.
Damon needs a little snack. You know what I'm saying?
Yep, and he attacks her.
Yep. The episode ends. They're doing their thing, and Damon looks up, pulls out the teeth, and bites her on the neck, and that's how the episode ends, with Damon biting Caroline on the neck.
Does it end with him biting her on the neck?
Yeah.
Or does just attacking her, like going in
well,
at it? Yeah, and then he goes in at it.
Yeah.
So what was your favorite part of this episode?
My favorite part of this episode.
I know you like when Jenna hits.
That's the favorite part of this episode is Jeremy getting hit with an apple.
It was really good.
Yeah, it was funny. My favorite part of the episode is when the two kids are in the tent at the first. The guy gets up to go get something out of the car. The girl's still laying there, feels or hears something dripping on top of the tent. She comes out of the tent, looks up, and his body is actually in a tree, dripping blood down on the tent. I thought that was cool, not something you see on cable TV every day.
Yeah, that was a good part. My favorite, what do you think my favorite part of the episode was?
Probably Stefan and Elena's kiss.
Yes, I loved it. It was wonderful.
I think what we can take away from
waited for it. I wanted it to happen in the first one.
Well, you know what? I'm sure it's going to happen a lot more.
It does.
But I think what we can take away from this episode is Stefan has an ex named Catherine.
Yeah.
She looks just like Elena.
Yeah, and that makes me mad. That made me mad. Yeah. I was like, I was thinking Stefan wasn't genuine in it.
Now, spoiler alert, what we find out later on is that's called a doppelganger.
Mm-hmm.
So that is we'll find that out later on, but there's a reason why Catherine looks just like Elena.
Mm-hmm.
And so we find out that vampires can compel. We find out vampires can hear very well. And we find out that vampires can jump out of very high windows and land and keep going.
Yeah, and that's funny because that is your typical.
That is some of your Twilight stuff.
Yeah, I don't think so I said before in the first episode we did that there's a lot of things that happen in this first whole season
Mm-hmm.
that happened in the last season. They do that. This series is really good about always, coming back and tying things together. But they did a lot of the little, nostalgic things to make you remember the first series. And so Stefan asks him, he says, "What are you doing here?" And Stefan says to Damon, "What are you doing here?" And Damon says, "That's for me to know and you to ...
That's for me to know and for you to ...
Yeah.
Okay, that ends up being a big thing, a big part of the very last episode.
Yep. ... That becomes a very big.
Yeah. So my three. Number one, number three is when Jenna chucks that applet.
Yeah.
Because if you've ever raised a teenager, you know that felt good for her.
It felt good for me to watch.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you just want to chuck whatever's in your hand at them. So that felt good. Two was that's for me to know and for you to ...
Mm-hmm.
And number one,
The kiss.
it should have just been called The Kiss.
Yeah, well,
instead of The Night of the Comet.
Yeah, I don't know why they called it Night of the Comet. I think they were having
What was the Night of the Comet?
They were having a festival in town to watch the comet and all that good stuff.
We will have to study up on this, but I think every episode title, especially of season one, I don't know about the rest of them, but I think every episode title for season one is a throwback to a movie.
Okay,
an
we'll
older
check
movie
that
or
out.
something. What was the pilot?
Yeah.
But
well, we will verify that, and in our next episode, we will tell you guys what we found out about it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that. We're still, learning how to do this and trying to make it be better and all that good stuff. So bear with us. But everybody seemed to like our first episode, so we hope you like this one. Don't forget to like and subscribe to everything, and leave us a message. We love getting comments and messages from you guys. And if you want to email us, it's at thatwentbyfast@yahoo.com. And you can see us on YouTube, and just make sure you comment and subscribe and let us know what you think about it. We appreciated all the feedback we got from the first episode, and we look forward to keeping on doing this because we're enjoying it.
Bye.